Okay, ghost encounters. Now, um, probably most of you have been to places that are haunted or whatever, and I have, and my wife has and stuff. But those are not the kind of ghost encounters I've had, because when I'm at a place like that, I'm not really comfortable with like ghosts jumping out at me when I'm fully awake and conscious. So I just don't see things like that on purpose. But where I've encountered ghosts is in the astral. I'm someone who, lucid dreams and astral travels, and that's where I meet my guides. That's where I get useful information I've been able to bring back and apply to my life, and it's been life-saving and all kinds of neat stuff. So for me, that works well as a way of communicating outside the normal five senses. It doesn't freak me out too much there. So I've had a few interesting ghost encounters there, and then I also wanted to tell a story that happened to my wife, just so we can talk about it, just because it's cool. And my observation is, we for some reason, or most of us anyway, are spooked, by ghosts. And I really think that's just because we've seen so much TV and movies and stuff that, and even read books and stories that taught us that's what you do. If you encounter a ghost, you get spooked. It's been kind of painted from a scary perspective or whatever. And it's funny because when you think about it, ghosts, and maybe half of the fear is in the name. Like, what's a ghost? A ghost is just a person without their body, right? They're a person like you and me. Now, it doesn't mean everyone's going to be nice, but it doesn't mean any of them are going to be mean either. And I think, just like with what you attract to yourself in your conscious day-to-day life or whatever, same thing there. I mean, the kind of ghost you're going to have an interaction with is going to be someone at a somewhat similar vibration to wherever you're at in your current state of being or whatever at that moment, I guess. So, for the most part, I guess. So anyway, the way this has worked with me is I can think of two really distinct examples right now, and there's been others. There's been times where I was laying down and my body was asleep but I was awake, what they call what do they call that, night terrors or whatever. Except, when I was young, yeah, it was a terror, but now that I know what it is, it's not a terror at all. It's not terrifying. I'm used to it. Sometimes I choose to step out of my body at that point, which is amazing. But anyway, I've had situations where I was in that state, and I would notice someone sitting on the bed or something, and it was never scary when I could see them that clear. It was usually someone nice, just kind of like, I don't know, they were just there because they care or something. But in the astral, in a few lucid dreams, I just wanted to tell a couple cool stories. So the first one I remember like this, I was in a dream, I became very lucid, and I was actually in this room, okay, this basement, my dingy basement studios production room here, right? This happened maybe 4 or 5 years ago, something, and I'm in the dream. I become lucid, and I notice this light turns itself on, right? And I know, like, I've been learning a lot about dream interpretation. While I'm on that subject, I want to recommend a book that my guides recommended to me. It's by Michael Sheridan, and I believe it's called How to Interpret Your Dreams by Michael Sheridan. Okay, look for the dream interpretation book by Michael Sheridan. It is amazing. It is incredible. It's not like any other dream interpretation you read out there. And everything, once you've gone into this book, and learned this guy's story and where he got this from, you realize that all the other dream I can't say all of them, but I've never seen anything else out there that's legit at all. Every other dream interpretation site I've ever seen is basically people just guessing what your dream symbols mean. This takes it to a whole different level. So I got to give credit where it's due. And I have to recommend it. It's very amazing and legit what you can learn if you actually understand the archetypal language of dreams. So anyway, this light came on its own in the dream, and I was lucid, and I knew that means something from my studies, from what I just recommended. So anyway, I got this very strong feeling. There was a presence there, and I said, hello, who are you? And when I asked, okay, this light was shining on the wall, kind of where I'm looking over here, and a piece of chalk picked up on its own and started writing on the wall, and wrote out a name, a first name and a last name. Now I'm not going to say it just in case that individual doesn't need me giving their name to the whole world, and it doesn't matter. But this person told me their name, okay? And because I didn't freak out, because I felt at peace with it, and I just realized, okay, this is a person, a disembodied person. I asked him a little more about himself, and then he materialized. Then he appeared for me, and it was a young man, like a young teenager, okay? And he showed me that he was also with his mom and dad, who had passed over too, and they weren't very old. But the scene was basically they were happy together, everything was good, nothing was urgent in the dream. This wasn't like a, oh my God, you have to give somebody a message for me kind of a ghost story. It wasn't like that. It was just for whatever reason I was resonating at a level where I became conscious of him while I was in this lucid dream, and so he told me his name, and then when I didn't freak out, he went ahead and appeared, and you know, I kind of hung out with him a little, and his parents, and you know, that was it. But that was the first time that had happened to me where, you know, this wasn't a guide, this wasn't an angel, this wasn't an alien, this wasn't anything else. This was a pretty much recently deceased person. I even got a feeling for how they ended up all, you know, passing away together, him and his mom and dad. But anyway, it was very interesting, and it was a very distinctly different type of experience than dealing with a spirit guide or dealing with a negative entity, as I've often, you know, encountered, especially I used to before I started teaching them a lesson for messing with me, and then all the bullying stopped. But anyway, this was a very distinct kind of experience and unique. So that's my ghost story, right? So then another one. Now, the thing is, I can sense there's beings around us all the time, but like I say, in my normal waking day-to-day life, I don't really want to be startled by, you know, just you turn your head this way and you just see random people standing there and you're jumping out of your skin all the time. I don't really want stuff like that. So I may sense, you know, spirits around and stuff, but I don't see them, and I don't overly focus into that. That's just me, you know. And like I say, it's unfortunate that we're all spooked by such things because we were taught to be like it's scary or bad, and it's not. They're just people, okay? And you and me are people, and we're a spirit. We happen to have a body right now. It seems kind of strange that we're spooked by everybody who doesn't, but anyway, the next cool story. So I'm having another dream. I become lucid. This time I'm at my parents' house, and in the dream, and where they're currently living, and I get that feeling again. Whoa, somebody's here. It's a distinctly different feeling to me when I notice a disembodied person than, you know, anything else I've encountered, and the strangest things happens. This rope picks up on its own, and one end kind of flies up into my hand, so I grab it, and then somebody's playing tug-of-war with me on the other side of the rope. Someone invisible. Okay, we're kind of in this hallway, and we're playing tug-of-war, and I can feel it's kind of playful, but I know that this is the ghost of a person, if you want to call it a ghost. I can feel that, and it was a little bit of a hair-raising feeling this time. Kind of took me by surprise. So he never materialized in front of me, but I did ask his name, and when I asked his name, he stopped pulling the rope and it fell on the floor, and it immediately spelled out his first and last name, the rope, clear as day. So, and it was wild. I was like, whew, you know. So the whole next day I'm talking to the guy like, hey, you know, is there something do you need me to tell somebody something? Is that what this is? And it wasn't. It wasn't that kind of thing. It was just, again, I just happened to notice the spirit of someone while I was lucid in a dream. Because when I'm lucid in a dream, I'm just, you know, my senses are so sharp. They're like sharper than they are when I'm in this body here. So for whatever reason, I just noticed this person around me. And I remember in that dream also seeing a vision of a woman and getting her name. It was almost like just because I was in, and that's not whose name was written on the floor. This was a guy that I was playing tug of war with, but then I also, while I was at it, it's like I went ahead and saw a vision of a woman and got her name. And she didn't want anything from me. It was just me seeing this person. I even saw what she had looked like during her life. So anyway, it was just cool, you know, and I can handle stuff like that now and enjoy it in a lucid dream, because when I'm lucid in a dream, I'm wanting to explore things, you know, things that you don't normally explore within your five senses. So nothing scary except our preconditioned ooh, haunted house, ooh, you know, like we've seen all these horror movies or scary cartoons or whatever it is, heard story, you know, scary stories. And as humans, we like to scare ourselves with stuff like that. I get it. I go through stages where I just like watching scary stuff and reading scary stuff. I don't know if that's even healthy or good, because now I'm seeing the effect it's kind of had on us, where, you know, when you're afraid of things, you block it out, you know, things from other realms. And I'm kind of removing more and more of those filters as I go, because it's very interesting, if nothing else. Now, there was a story with my wife where this worked very different with her. She tends to notice these things more often when she's awake, and it kind of spooks her. But, you know, since we've been growing together and dealing with all these, you know, outside the box topics or whatever you want to call it, you know, she's become less afraid, more open to it, like myself. And, you know, her spiritual abilities and gifts and perceptions work a little different than mine. And one night, and she's had various stories. Her great-grandmother came to her right after she passed away and gave her a message, you know, cool things like that. You know, and I've seen people that have passed over too give me messages in dreams, though. That's where I do most of my spiritual exploring, and I'm learning to let more into this reality, you know, so I can expand upon using my intuition and sensitivities for something useful while I'm in my body, instead of just being bothered by them like it's been most of my life. But anyway, one night she was having this experience, and she was laying in bed awake, like she woke up from a dream. Something woke her up, and there was this young boy who she described to me in detail. He told her his name. He told her that he felt he was kind of troubled, because I think he was around 12, something like that. And he was just explaining to her how it bothered him that the way he had died or passed over, like, people didn't know. People didn't even know what had happened to him. You know, it's like he kind of, I forget what the vision was now, and it's not important, you know, the details, but something had happened to him where he'd had an accident by himself, and, you know, and that was it. You know, he didn't get to tell anybody what happened to him or anything. And she, it was pretty startling for her. She didn't have a long enough conversation with him to, like, get information on who his family is and where she should tell who or what or anything. And she hasn't seen him since. And it wasn't like urgent. He wasn't like freaking out or anything. She just told me that it was like, you know, he was concerned about that. It kind of bothered him that, you know, he hadn't got, you know, the people that lost him didn't even know how it had happened. I think they probably, you know, they know they've lost him, and I don't know if his body was found or what, but something was on his mind about, you know, he kind of wished they had known what had happened to him specifically. So, you know, there's probably going to be more developments with my wife along those lines. Her and I went to a place that's known for having a lot of ghost type activity, and she heard things and saw things and all that. And at the time, I was not in the mood, so I didn't witness anything. I was kind of on one of my personal struggles of a trip at the time, so I wasn't really open to any of that. But anyway, I think with her, she's had other things happen while she's awake, where she saw someone there, and they touched her, and, you know, like a loving influence of someone healing her. But anyway, she has more visions while awake and conscious than I do, and I tend to get caught in that halfway place where my mind or my spirit is awake, laying in a body that's asleep, When I was younger, that happened to me a lot, that night terror experience, and I would notice like shadows around me and I'd be all freaked out because my belief systems at the time were so bad. It just made that all horrifying, and it was just like a nightmare. And a lot of people out there experience that, and they don't realize that the reason it's so terrifying is your belief systems have you horrified, that these must be, you know, devious, dark, awful beings trying to do something to you because you feel paralyzed. And what you don't realize is you have woken up, you have awakened, you have become lucid while laying in your body, which is still asleep. And that's a very unique, interesting place to be. And after I'd educated myself about that, that's how I learned to astral travel. I learned that when that happens, you can consciously get out of your body. And sure enough, it worked the first time I tried it. And now anytime I find myself in that state, that's what I like to do because it's so awesome. It's so amazing. It's a wonderful experience. And the first time I did it, also, our dog noticed me. It was the coolest thing. I left my body. I noticed my older son was sitting outside of his body in his bed as I passed him by. He looked a little dazed, like he didn't know what was going on, but it was very interesting because I saw him sitting on the edge of the bed, and then I walked over and I saw his body still laying in the bed. And I was like, oh, no, he's kind of like me, you know, and he hasn't figured it out yet what's going on. But the dog definitely noticed me, acknowledged me on my way by, and that was an interesting feeling. But and I won't get into all the adventures thereof because, you know, astral projection. I think I've been saying the wrong thing up till now. I'm referring to astral projection, okay? That's the correct term, I believe, for when you consciously step outside your body. And I've learned to do that when I find myself in that in-between state where your body's asleep but your mind and spirit are awake or whatever. You're lucid, but your body feels paralyzed. That's because it's actually asleep. So you're not fully connected to it, and that's what makes it so you can leave. But anyway, couple cool ghost stories just wanted to share because, you know, if anybody wants to share ghost stories or whatever, that'd be cool. I know a lot of people have them in one form or another during your life, or you at least sense something, and maybe, you know, like myself, you're like, yeah, I don't think I really want to see more right now, so I think I'm not going to. But for me in the dreams, it's been very interesting, and it's a very distinct feeling when you're dealing with a human who was recently a human, having the human experience, and now they've passed over. Their energy and the way they feel, it's a very different interaction than, you know, when you interact with like a spirit guide or some consciousness coming from either a higher plane or a lower plane. That's very different. So anyway, I guess that's my sharing on that subject. So feel free to share cool stories with me, guys. I think it's really exciting stuff to talk about if you're in the mood, you know. If it doesn't spook you too much, because that's my point. It's kind of a shame that we've been enculturated or indoctrinated or something with a way of just being scared of things like that, when really they're just people like us, you know. It's a little unusual to suddenly meet someone when you don't expect to, but it's also really cool. And there are people who get messages from people like that, deliver it to their family, and it really helps, you know. Maybe sometime I'll have the chance to do that, or my wife will, and, you know, that would be cool to help give a family some information they need to know this person's okay and what they'd like to tell them. I'm not, you know, I'm not closed off to that. Hey, any way I can help people on either side of the veil, you know, would be awesome. And I'm sure some of you out there have done that, so, you know, share your story with us. That'd be cool. So anyway, this video is getting long enough. I don't want to ramble any longer, but yeah, anything cool to share, please do. And if I have more cool stories that I feel inspired along these lines, I'll share them with you guys too. All right, thanks. I love you.